Chris, welcome. Just quickly before we get into those news poll numbers, Pauline Hanson, you've sat through plenty of Senate sittings using that full-face burqa to pull a stunt today. What do you make of that?
Well, she's a headline hunter and she'll get the headlines that she's after in tomorrow's press. And of course, on the news tonight, she knew that she was going to do that. It draws a circle around one of her concerns, that she was wanting to have a bill that was banning the burqa. Look, I would counsel against doing something like this. I think there is an important conversation to be had about social cohesion in Australia. I think that that's been really supercharged in this year. We've seen all those Gaza demonstrations and the kind of behaviour that we've seen on the streets and the threats to our Jewish community. So all of that, I think, is a very serious conversation. I would hate to think, though, that somebody who chooses to wear a burqa in Australia might be targeted because of something like this. And I fear that that's the kind of thing that does happen.
Yeah, let's hope that's not the result. News poll, I was speaking there to Cam about it. Andrew Hastie, top of the list for preferred coalition leader, only 6% behind Susan Lee. I do note the figure that stood out for me in that part of the news poll was 46% of people didn't know who they wanted to have lead the Liberal Party.
Yeah, didn't know and probably didn't care, Stephen. Therein lies the problem for the coalition at the moment, and particularly, should I say, the Liberal Party at the moment. Look, you've got to worry when someone who is close to the leader says to you that they think that they'll make it to the end of this week. And remember that that's always the issue with leadership challenges. They're really only in trouble when everyone gathers in Canberra, because that's when they can have a vote. Now, I do think, given what I'm told, that she will make it to the end of the week, but I've been through many of these things before, so I would never say never. But obviously her leadership is under a cloud, and she can thank, thankfully, the last two leaders of the Liberal Party, Scott Morrison and Peter Dutton, who lost 34 seats over the course of 2 elections, for dumping her in the worst possible position.
Chris, I couldn't count on 2 hands the number of times I've been sitting either hosting a program like this or hosting a radio program, whether it was in Melbourne or Sydney, and suddenly some bomb thrower appears out of nowhere and you've got a leadership spill on, and suddenly the leader's got to declare the vacant position and loses the vote. I mean, you and I have witnessed, how many times have we seen this? You can go through Rudd, Gillard, Rudd, you can go through Turnbull, Abbott. I mean, they're everywhere.
Yeah, look, I remember vividly the night of the 23rd of June 2010 when I was involved with Mark Simkin in breaking the news that there was a move against Kevin Rudd. Well, it was novel in those days. There was an extraordinary amount of movement and excitement around that, but then it unfortunately became routine, and we've done incredible damage to our democracy because of that. Now, opposition leaders losing their jobs, now that used to be more common. All I can say to Susan Lee is that I think Brendan Nelson was actually in a worse position than she was when he lost his job, but eventually that did happen. And it's clear, it is clear that there are other people who are trailing their coats. Now, they might not be ready to go now, but are they just waiting their opportunity to go later next year, perhaps?
Was that famous night when you showed me the pictures of Bill Shorten with 2 phones, one on each ear?
Down at that Vietnamese restaurant, I'll never forget Darryl Mellon coming out of Parliament saying, "What a load of nonsense this is, the ABC's broadcasting, it's complete rubbish." And within hours, he was finding out that it was absolutely true. No, that was a night that is etched in my memory.
I must say, talking about history, I watched back your November 11, excellent documentary on November 11. How would the current leaders, people like Albanese, Susan Lee, David Littleproud, how would they have fared back in that political time, do you reckon?
Well, Albanese would be in a pretty good position because of the numbers that he commands in the House of Representatives. But I can tell you this, Malcolm Fraser would not be sitting on his hands. One of the things that we knew about Malcolm Fraser is that he was a stone-cold political killer. As Paul Kelly told us, look at his record. He killed off John Gorton when he was Prime Minister. He then killed off Billy Snedden, and then he killed off Gough Whitlam. So if Malcolm Fraser was sitting behind you, you'd be looking over your shoulder a lot.
I want to get your opinion on this. This is question time today. Treasurer Chalmers was asked a question by the opposition about our high power bills. This is a massive issue, as we know. Here was the response of Jim Chalmers to the question.
When it comes to renewables and when it comes to the orderly transition to net zero, this is what a dozen energy retail CEOs have had to say. Rob Wheels from Squadron Energy. We know that Australia's coal fleet is nearing the end of its economic and technological lifespan, with coal plant outages driving higher price periods. Coal is killing affordability and reliability.
Given all the work you've done on this, is it right to pin all of this on coal, like he seems to want to do?
It's the only anchor that we've got in the marketplace now, and what he said just underlined that. When coal plants go out, the price of electricity rises. Now, it's a very complicated system, but I'll try to do it as easily as I can. We're talking about an energy marketplace and an electricity marketplace where power is bought and sold. You cannot make an energy marketplace with wind and solar because they're off more often than they are on. What you've got to do then is try and buttress them. You spread them out across the entire landscape. Try and catch as much wind as you possibly can, as much sun as you possibly can, but every night the sun will go down. Then you need to work out what fills that gap when they disappear from the marketplace, and that is what will set the price of electricity more often than not. At the moment, brown coal and black coal are setting that price at a reasonably low level. After that, gas, hydro and batteries, by the way, set the price ridiculously high. When people say that wind and solar are going to be backed up by batteries, that's an arbitrage market, mate. That means that you will buy low and sell high. And at the moment, the highest cost of electricity in Australia is when batteries set the price of electricity.
So why do they keep getting away with saying renewables is the cheapest form of energy over and over and over again? And they slam the opposition when the opposition tries to question them on that.
Because it's complex, Stephen. People don't understand how the electricity system works and what the interface is between something. So when wind and solar generate, they do generate for free. The problem is they don't generate often enough. And the magic of the system that's around us is that for these lights to stay on, supply and demand have to be in balance every second of every day. That's the way that the system works. Now, coal can do that, hydro can do that, gas can do that, wind and solar don't do that. And so what you do is you build this incredibly complex system which needs to be backed up by something that can function when you need it. Like, to me, wind and solar is like the chef that decides what day he wants to turn up, and you never know when that's going to be. The price you will pay for dinner will be the price that the chef who's in the kitchen charges you. That's how it works.
I wonder if the UN knows what it's in for recruiting Chris Bowen to be, what is he, president of COP31, roaming around the world in charge of negotiations. What did you think when you heard he'd got that job?
Well, mate, imagine if he does to these negotiations what he's doing to Australia's energy system. That might be the best possible outcome. At least we didn't get COP31 coming here. I actually wanted it to come. I wanted the Australian people to see the world's biggest pack of grifters arrive in their tens of thousands with the largest carbon footprint you could possibly imagine to sell their wares. So now Chris Bowen will have two jobs. He'll have the job in Australia and he'll have the job at the UN. Unfortunately, not everything that Australia needs will be what the world wants. And can I say, there's a big target that's been drawn around our coal exports and around our liquefied natural gas exports. Number 2 and number 3 exports in Australia, worth about $120 billion a year to Australia. That's what builds the National Disability Insurance Scheme. That's what pays for Medicare. That's what helps pay for people's schools. We unplug that from Australia's economy and there is nothing to take its place. Everyone's talking about, oh, we might do green hydrogen, we might do green steel. These are imaginary industries. They don't exist. What we will do is unplug the thing that works and try and find something to take its place, and we will beggar the nation in the meantime. So if that's the argument that Chris Bowen is making, he's making an argument to impoverish Australia to the world. It'll be interesting to see what he says at home and to look at the distance between him and the Prime Minister.
Well, it was great to catch up with you, Chris. I love that word, grifters. Thank you very much.